So hello everyone and welcome to a little bit of a different video today. Now right at the beginning of January I had a lot planned for you guys for this year and there's some really exciting stuff, but sadly at the beginning of this month my father's passed away and it has hit me absolutely like a ton of bricks. And what I really wanted to do was just kind of honour his memory and just remember how he brought me and introduced me to gaming for when I was a lot younger, and talk about some of the games that he introduced me to, and just do a little bit of a memory and also relate it a little bit back to the channel at the same time. There's a lot on my mind for the moment, so videos will be maybe a bit hit and miss, maybe for the next month, and then I'll get straight back onto it and sort it out, but it's difficult. Anyway, so let's get to the point of this video and talk about some of the earlier games my dad first introduced me to. Back when you were balling it out there with Windows 95, my dad came on with this, Interstate 76. Now, Interstate 76 was full of disco characters and basically customizing your car and pimping it out and then going after bad guys. So I'll put that down. And the best memory I had of that was the funky cutscenes that I might even be able to link up now, but they were just so out there and strange. The graphics were just terrible by today's standards, but back then it was a game that entertained me for hours and hours, and I was so grateful for my dad to bring it back to me, because before that all I was drawing was pictures on Photoshop and Paint, just doodling little blobs and stuff. So he then stepped it up a little bit one day. He brought back this from work. This is a Battlefield 1942. Now this is not the original copy that he brought back, because he brought it back from one of his friends at work, and his friend at work basically said, oh, your son should try this game, it's really good. And every night for weeks and weeks I remember getting home from school, going straight on it and just playing against bots. We didn't have any internet in the house at that time, so bots were a really tough enemy for me, especially at being at that extremely young age. I think I was still in primary school in some of the cases. It was difficult, it was fun, it was great fun, and my dad was really good to introduce me to that. The issue was, one day his friend said he wanted that back, and I was absolutely devastated by this. And I nearly cried over it. I was so upset because I couldn't come home anymore from school and play it. And then, as a great dad would do, he comes back with not just Battlefield 1942, he comes back with Battlefield 1942, Battlefield 1942 Road to Rome, and Battlefield 1942 Secret Weapons. Now, as a child, you can imagine how excited I was for him to bring back not just the game that I'd missed because he took it away from me, but an expansion pack that brings a whole another theatre of different bits. I think this brought us to the Italian conflict, and then the other one, 1942 Secret Weapons, introduces all these crazy little guns and stuff. My dad was never a big fan of playing these games with me at this time, but he knew it was something I enjoyed, so he would tailor my experience to that. And try to expand it a little bit more from the war genre. He introduced me to other sort of classic titles like Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was great because you basically build your own little enclosures, you trap tourists in different adventures, you take them out in cars and all sorts. It was a great game, and for a young person it's a suitable game as well. I mean, I really shouldn't have been playing Battlefield 1942, but my dad kind of knew that I was capable of understanding it. So as I got a little bit older and I moved into secondary school, he introduced me into stuff like Full Spectrum Warrior, and the whole idea of this was commanding a little fire team through buildings, and I think it was based in Fallujah or somewhere, and it was very in depth. And one of the final ones he introduced me to as well was The Great Escape. Now this was before I got a little bit older, but what was great about this is you had to run away from the Germans. It had really dodgy animations of you running like this and that. But it was a great title, and it had a movie to go along with it, and the Great Escape film me and my dad watched countless times and we loved it. It was great. So popping a little bit further along, eventually he picked this title up, and this is the original one he actually got me. You can see the case is frayed, damaged from all the times that I pulled it out and used it, and it was Operation Flashpoint, the first true simulating combat game that you could play, and this got me onto later buy games in the Arma series. But remember, when you're this young and you've not got too much money going on, the games that you buy or get are the games that are going to last you for ages, because that's what your parents can afford. And it was great. I loved the experience, and I played hours and hours once again against bots. I had no multiplayer. Now moving a little bit further I started to get my dad into a little bit of gaming. He played a little bit of work, he'd played Counter-Strike at work, and then he decided that he would really get himself into strategy games. And the thing with strategy games, they were never particularly my cup of tea at the start, but he wanted someone to compete against. And as his son, he kind of thought, you know what, I'll get him into it as well. So first of all, we've got World War II Panzerklaus. Now there was an earlier version of this, that's pretty similar, but you can see it's just an RTS, small little tank game. And he played that for ages and ages. The AI was extremely hard. He used to fight 5 or 6 enemy players at a time, and I remember he'd have a battle that would last weeks and weeks. He'd come back after work, do a little bit, come off, defeat an enemy, and there used to be literally islands chock-a-blocked with armoured vehicles that he'd have to destroy one by one. After that, this was when he introduced me to playing a little bit against him. This is Command & Conquer Generals. Now if you know this title, it is absolutely amazing. I just can't remember the countless times I spent with my dad battling against him, or sometimes I would come home from school and I'd sit on this little wooden chair perched next to him, watch him defeat multiple AI enemies at a time, and I'd just sit there in awe going, wow. And the same for that happened with Half-Life. I couldn't play it myself, I wasn't really competent enough to solve the puzzles and stuff, but he did with the first initial Half-Life. And then when I come back to play it years and years later, I understood some of the puzzles and how he did them, and it was just a great way of remembering it. Also later on with Command & Conquer in the series, he decided to play against me and my friends, where he both destroyed me, and I think this was only 1 or 2 years ago now, and 2 of my other friends with his skills, so he still had a great sort of advantage over RTS games, and it's something I really remember strongly. Now, moving a little bit past that, for many years my dad didn't really play too many games. He was more interested in doing his Photoshop and his graphics and whatnot. But he purchased one of my first Arma titles. Now, Armed Assault is a series that's extremely well known for its simulation aspect, and I remember I was 16 at the time and I was joining these groups of 20-30 guys running around these battlefield, organising these massive events, obviously pretending I was older so I could get in these things. But it just opened a world to me, and what I could really say to wrap this video up is my dad introduced me to gaming, and he allowed me to sort of construct a channel around it as I was doing college, and he supported me all the way to such an extent where he let me set up a studio in his house to film it, and I miss him and I'm always going to miss him. But that was it. That's a little video, just a little bit of remembrance, something to get off my chest, share with you, and also inform you why there won't be so many videos going on over the next few weeks. But I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you when I get a chance.
So beautiful. You haven't told Mum that I've had no fun since she's not been with me. When she was.